Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, Blue!
Yo, Adrian!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave. Your host, Elias.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on this week's episode. This week I had the pleasure of talking to actor, writer Adam Tsekhman. You've seen him on the CW's Legends of Tomorrow as Agent Gary Green. We had a great chat talking about his career, how he got into acting, and his comedy pilot that he co-wrote. Just a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at the MCC Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook just by searching the Man Cave Chronicles podcast. Enjoy the episode. It was a great time talking to Adam. Adam, welcome to the cave.
Hey, Elias, pleasure to be here at the cave. It's so lovely here.
How are things with you, man? What's new with you?
Things are good. Just in the midst of the season of Legends of Tomorrow. Having a ball shooting in Vancouver, and right now having a ball with you in the Man Cave.
There you go. So you've had a busy career with acting, writing TV pilots, and of course the show. But I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit more about you. Where are you originally from?
Originally from Winnipeg, Canada, right in the center, the capital of Manitoba.
There you go.
And then when I was 14, my family, we moved to Toronto. So high school in Toronto.
There you go. How was it growing up there?
Which, by the way, it was, in Winnipeg, extremely cold, like frigidly cold temperatures in the winter. So cold that you have to plug in your car when you go to the shopping mall, which I don't know if you know about, but yeah, in super cold weather cities, you have to do that so the oil in the engine doesn't freeze.
Okay.
And then in the summer, you would get destroyed by mosquitoes, sadly.
So
it's like finally the weather is hot and you're like, yeah, oh no, mosquitoes everywhere.
So it was a no-win situation over there, huh?
I know, it's really frustrating. Yeah. Literally you need to in the summer you need to stand in the sun. And once you step into the shade, mosquitoes. Yeah. Nighttime, mosquitoes. So
growing up there, what were you into as a kid? What'd you enjoy doing?
A lot of, stereotypical hockey, a lot of street hockey, just kind of mostly sports-related activities, basketball, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those were my two, and tennis. Those were my three sports that I played the most.
Who did you enjoy watching in hockey in Canada?
Well, my idol growing up was Mario Lemieux.
Okay.
I loved him. The greatest hockey player of all time, in my opinion, even though Wayne Gretzky, I get it. He I guess technically is the greatest, but Mario Lemieux the most talented. And then basketball, I didn't really have a team. I kind of liked the Knicks until I moved to Toronto the year that the Raptors were birthed, the year the dinosaur egg hatched and the baby beautiful Raptor appeared. And now I'm a diehard Raptors fan. But you know that you know how they chose the name, the Raptors? It's so embarrassing.
Actually, I don't.
So the only reason it's the Raptors is because Jurassic Park was the #1 movie that year, and people just thought the name was really cool, but 100% related to the movie.
I was waiting for you to tell me this huge dinosaur story in Toronto, or...
I know. I wish there was they found the bones downtown. They did a dig and they found a Stegosaurus. No, it was. Well, I guess I would be a Velociraptor in this case, but yeah, it was literally because of the movie.
So I read online that you went off to college for finance. How did you go from finance into acting?
Yeah, so I studied finance. I finished it. I have a degree in it. But while I was at the University of Pennsylvania, I would go to see extracurricular theater companies on campus. They'd have all those student theater groups.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, she wanted me to audition for her theater company, which was called Teatron. And the reason that it existed was it was specifically for Orthodox Jews, meaning that they never performed or rehearsed on Friday night or Saturday during the Sabbath when religious Jews are not supposed to do any work. So I auditioned for it, and they brought everyone they liked in a room together, and they said, look, the play we're doing this year requires the lead male and female to kiss. Who's willing to kiss a member of the opposite sex? And I put up my hand, and they were like, great, you're the lead. And that was it. Because most of the other actors in it who were religious, I wasn't religious, so a lot of them, you're not allowed to kiss or touch a member of the opposite sex until marriage. Wow. If you're very religious.
Yeah. Wow. So from there, you decided did you go back to acting school for that?
Yeah, so I sort of fell in love with it then, and then after that I went to grad school for theater. Yeah. Got a Master's of Fine Arts.
So what was your plan after that? LA, like everybody else?
Yeah. That's what was interesting was, so I went to school in New York at Columbia, and when we were graduating, the general, sort of the official party line of the school was like, do not go to LA. Go to LA when LA calls you. LA doesn't need more actors. It's kind of like that kind of thing. And I was just like, why is LA going to call any of us? You need to, in LA, you got to bang down the door yourself. No one's, busy searching for new grads in New York. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous. And although I love theater, it just seemed like LA is, where more of the money-paying jobs are.
Yeah. So you were doing theater for how many years before you decided you wanted to transition to TV?
So that program was 3 years, and then sort of right after we graduated, I did a show related to the program off Broadway, and then pretty soon after that, I came to LA. And since I've lived in LA for 12 years, I've only done one play here, which is kind of sad. I mean, I love theater. I'd love to do it again. I'm not discounting it completely, but It's just didn't become a priority here.
Yeah. So what was the first gig when you went out to LA?
My first gig was on a soap opera called The Young and the Restless. It was actually pretty awesome. It was I played a wedding chapel manager, and Little Richard was in the episode playing the piano. It was awesome. Hilarious guy. What a nice guy. What a fun guy.
Yeah. Did you enjoy doing a soap opera?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was my first gig. It was a really fun sort of, colorful role. And yeah, I had a blast. Yeah. I was hoping I would get more episodes, but it was just one, but that's okay.
Hey, you went from that to being on Legends of Tomorrow, which is one of the biggest shows at CW, so that's not a bad start.
Oh, it's amazing. No, I'm very, very grateful, Elias. Very grateful.
Yeah. So how does it feel being on that show?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a hilarious show. It's such a, the writers are so brilliant and have created such an amazing world. And it's amazing how much the show has changed from last season to this season. You would never think wow, how could the show get even wackier, even more bonkers, even more hilarious? They're geniuses. Yeah. I feel very honored to be a part of it.
Yeah. So when you were growing up as a kid, did you read comic books at all? Were you into comics, or was it mostly just sports?
Yeah, not really. No, I wasn't. Yeah, I was into sports and movies. Yeah. I went to the movies all the time. I remember when I was 13, my mom. So in Canada, when a movie is rated R, it's the equivalent of NC-17 in the States. So nobody, except it's 18, so it's an NC-18 movie. No one under the age of 18 is allowed to go. And I went with my mom to see Pulp Fiction, and I was 13 at the time. And we walked up to the ticket counter, and the guy's like, I don't think he's 18. And she's like, he's my son. He's 18. I know how old my son is. I was like, thanks, Mom. This is awesome. And then, of course, there's the GIMP scene and the crazy shit that happened.
What did your mom think of Pulp Fiction?
She loved it. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure she was uncomfortable like I was in the the Uma Thurman doing drugs, and then of course in the GIMP rape scene. But ultimately, whatever, I turned out relatively normal. It was fine.
Yeah. So, so you play Agent Gary Green on the show. So tell us a little bit about how you fell into that role.
So, thanks to the Columbia University Alumni Network, actually, I went to a holiday party, an Alumni Network holiday party in LA, and I met one of the writers of the show, Grania, who became a good friend of mine. And sort of, I guess it was maybe 2 years later, she called me, or a year and a half later, she called me. She said, "Look, Adam, we're writing this role. I think you'd be good for it. I contacted our Canadian casting director for you to audition." She's like, "Right now it's 3 episodes. We don't know if it'll be more, but, read for it and we'll see." Yeah. And so I submitted a tape, and the rest is history. I was very grateful that she thought of me and, opened the door to give me the opportunity. And then ultimately she didn't make the decision, but had she not, pushed for me, I never would have had the opportunity.
How did you prepare for that role? And tell us a little bit about your character.
Well, so the audition, interestingly, the audition was not in the episodes. So they were dummy sides created specifically for the audition. And, it was a lot of material, but I sort of recognized how comedic it was. And so a lot of it was preparing it, being very prepared with the material backwards and forwards and sort of working on the rhythm, because comedy is so much about rhythm. Yeah. So I kind of got the sense right away that he's kind of a lovable loser. He's sort of dorky, but also it's weird. He's on one hand very intelligent, on the other hand a complete moron. It's like those two, the dichotomy of the extremely intelligent, clearly, but then he does things you're like, wait, why are you doing that? That makes no sense. But so I sort of can identify with him in that sense. And then in terms, sorry, what was the next part of the question?
Like, how did you prepare for the role?
Oh, how did I prepare? I don't know. I guess I spend my whole life preparing.
Nothing wrong.
Nothing specifically. I didn't, thankfully, or not thankfully, or whatever, Gary Green doesn't exist in the DC universe. So it was not like, like Matt Ryan, who plays Constantine, has a trove of Constantine comics that he knows, that he reads, that he knows them really well. And, Gary Green is a figment of the imagination of the writers of Legends of Tomorrow. So there was the backstory didn't exist.
Yeah. It's fun. It's funny because, like you said, that other actors have to read those comics just to get to know the role better, and your role was created.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's been awesome. I guess the benefit of that is there is not this necessity to adhere to the fans and comic book fans' preconceived notions of who the character is,
Yeah. And you can make him your own also.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. Which has been so fun. It's been amazing.
Do you have a favorite scene or a moment on the show that you were in?
Yeah, several. I think the probably. So there's some stuff we're shooting now that I absolutely love, but I can't talk about it because it's going to be real juicy. But other than that, I think I love the first episode of this season, working with the unicorn, with the horse, who's so cute and so friendly, and at the same time, the trainer is getting the horse to sort of jump up on its heels, and so there was this, a little bit of danger. But and also working with all these animals, I got to work with a chicken, with a cat, with a pig.
Yeah, you're right about that. So how do you enjoy? I mean, obviously, I know you enjoy working with the cast, but how is it working with a pretty much an all-star cast like that?
Amazing. Yeah, they're all such professionals. They're brilliant. so well. Everyone is like so kind. There's no egos. We get along. Like a bunch of us hang out, sort of, on the weekends and stuff.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like summer camp. At least for me. I mean, I have a great time with everyone, really.
Yeah. I gotta ask, do you ever call Brandon Superman?
I haven't yet, but I should. Brandon is extremely knowledgeable about food. He's really amazing to talk to about nutrition. He's a genius.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
he was supposed to be at a Comic-Con near my area, but he had to cancel at the last minute. They said he had more filming he was doing, so hopefully next year he'll be up this way. So
that sucks. Yeah, sometimes we go really late on Fridays, like shoot till 3-4 in the morning. Where are you from? Where do you live?
I'm from Massachusetts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us a bit about this. So you guys shoot like what, 10 to 12 hours a day? I've had cast members from Flash and Arrow on the show, and they pretty much tell me, it's like 10 to 12 hours a day. It depends what they're shooting.
Yeah, pretty much. They've sort of started to be more strict about not going too far over 12 hours, but they do sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where it goes, and because there is like a 12-hour turnaround, meaning like if Monday ends at 10 p.m., they can't start Tuesday until 10 a.m. They can't start earlier.
Yeah. Oh wow.
That's sort of a rule to allow everyone to sort of have time to sleep.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is by the end of the week, it's like if every day gets pushed an hour, you might start shooting at 1 p.m. on Friday, and it could go till 3 a.m., 4 a.m., like I said earlier, which is probably what happened when Brandon couldn't make it.
That's interesting to know. So in the acting world, how do you who are some of your influences in the acting world?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm always leaning towards comedic influences. Like, I'm obsessed with Sacha Baron Cohen.
Okay.
I love the characters he creates, the way he gets to play with other people who are unaware of that, sort of the clown work he does, the mask he puts on,
Yeah.
And obviously I love Seinfeld. I guess that's an old sitcom, but it lasts. It's amazing still.
Yep.
So watching those actors is just a joy. Yeah. It's awesome.
I'm 41 years old, and I still watch Seinfeld. I've seen every episode probably like 10 times or more.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how watchable that show is. Like, It's just, any episode is just a joy. Yeah. It's amazing what they created.
It's like
and also, like, related to that, the other show that was another juggernaut, which I also love, Friends.
Yeah.
Friends has like a whole new generation of fans because of it being on Netflix. Yeah. It's amazing.
And people almost cried the other day because it was coming off Netflix.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because Warner Brothers is like, wait a sec, we have this massive hit. Well, we should, I guess they're going to probably do their own streaming service of some sort, I would imagine.
I did read that, yeah.
So
tell us a little bit about the writing you're doing. I read that you wrote 2 pilots. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, actually three. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those.
So, me and my writing partner have been working and developing these different shows. A lot of them are sort of fish out of water situations, which is what I find the most fun to write. So the one that we're developing right now is called Americanistan. And that one is about a Texas billionaire who decides to start an American news network in a fictional Middle Eastern dictatorship. So we have like Western journalists who have all ruined their careers in the West through doing stupid shit, and they are now in this fictional country that is a very strict dictatorship and are trying to report the news in a country where the news is highly censored by the government.
Wow.
But they're not used to it because they're from, one character's from England and the other 2 are Americans, and they don't operate that way. And yet in this world, that's how it works. So we're trying to and it's also a sitcom, but we're trying to have fun with dictatorship, terrorism, and misogyny. The three most hilarious subjects.
Right? So are you trying to pitch that to Hulu, Netflix? What's the plan with that?
Right, exactly, yeah. So now we're just putting together our our pitch materials, and we're going to be pitching next year.
Nice.
Early next year.
Nice.
Yeah. It's exciting. We actually shot the pilot episode 4 years ago.
Okay.
Sort of ourselves. And one of the actors who was in it was hilarious. He's next year is playing Aladdin in the new Disney Aladdin.
Wow.
So, and he wants to still do Americanistan, so we're hopeful that, things will progress nicely next year.
And the trailer looks amazing for Aladdin so far. I mean, it's a teaser trailer, but...
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, it does. I know. I'm pumped to see it.
So what do you think has been your biggest achievement so far in the acting world?
I mean, probably Legends of Tomorrow. I'm so happy to be part of that. Other than that, I mean, I think another sort of in terms of the difficulty of the role, I did a movie in Israel called Sealy that premiered at the Venice Film Festival. And that entire movie was shot in Yiddish, which is a language I did not speak. So I had a Yiddish teacher in LA, and I had my grandmother had the script with her in Toronto, and we were on the phone for an hour and a half a day, going over a lot of dialogue.
Wow.
And just learning this language that I didn't know.
Wow. But at least, hey, now you could put that down on your resume. You can
exactly.
do that.
Yeah, language is spoken, Yiddish.
Now, you mentioned...
All I knew before was, the stuff that was in Seinfeld,
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned, comedy and stuff like that. Have you thought about, have you, played around with, stand-up comedy, or are you more just, in the background? Yeah?
Yeah, so I started... I'm like a fetus in the stand-up world. I've performed about 20 times.
Okay.
And I started, I guess... The first time I performed was maybe 2 years ago. I've sort of fallen off the bandwagon a little bit, fallen off the wagon a little bit with it because I've been in Vancouver and not in LA. But yeah, I got to get back into it. It's amazing. Yeah. It's a real rush, and it's a fascinating art form. Yeah. Love it.
You're right about that. Do you have a dream role that you want to play someday?
I mean, I would love to be... The type of project I'd love to be involved in is a multicam sitcom.
Okay.
I just think it's a great melding of, theater and television. It would be fun to perform in front of a live audience. Even though that form of television is sort of dying, which is sad. I don't really understand why that is. I guess maybe just the single cam comedy is now taken over and people find the multicam kind of too broad, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that would be an amazing experience.
You're right about that. In most of these comedy shows now, the way they gets filmed and everything, you're right about that. They've changed a lot.
Yeah, it's all sort of...
Yeah.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, I guess still The Big Bang Theory is still the biggest show on TV, and that's a multicam, but... Yeah. There seems to be just not as many of them.
Yeah. So you've done interviews and podcasts. What's one thing that you wish people would ask you on a podcast or an interview?
That's a good question. What's one thing? Maybe what are your next most excited travel destination? What's the top list of places you want to go to in the world?
Oh, there you go. What's your do you have a top 3?
I prefer not to answer. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I would like to go to India Greece, Croatia.
There you go. That's good. I'm actually from Greece, so I could tell you where to go.
Oh, amazing! Yes, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, I lived there for 4 years. I was born here, but I lived there for 4 years. Yeah. So it was an amazing
Where
time.
did you live?
I lived in a few places. I lived in Athens. I lived in Sparta. My dad's from Sparta, and I lived in Kalamata, where my mom is from, also.
Wow,
But,
home of
but
the
if-
famous olive.
Yep. So if you like history, Sparta's a good place to go. I mean,
Of course.
Athens is huge too, of course. But if you're into like
Yeah,
300 and King Leonidas, you got to visit Sparta at least for like a day.
of course. Yeah, the military history of the Spartan warriors. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
So,
amazing. Yeah, I'd love to go.
Yeah, you'll have fun. There's a lot of things to do there. So,
That's awesome.
lastly, any future projects that you want to tell the listeners about?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a movie that's coming out. I don't know when. I think it's supposed to come out in the fall, but I'm not sure. But it's called Dragged Across Concrete. It's a Mel Gibson, Vince Vaughn joint.
Wow.
And I play a guy named Bezad who's a bulletproof car salesman, a sketchy fellow, very different than Gary Green on Legends.
Yeah.
I got to smoke a lot of cigarettes and and have some facial hair, so that was good.
That had to be a fun movie with Mel.
Yeah, I know. Sadly, I actually never worked with either of them because I was dealing with the bad guys, and they're the good guys.
So,
Which was bullshit, Elias.
next time.
Next time, exactly.
So, how can the listeners find you on social media?
At Tseky, Tseky. I think definitely on Instagram. I think on Twitter too, both of them.
All right.
Tseky.
All right. Is there anything else you want to tell the listeners before we end this?
Just keep on listening to the Man Cave, and your life will be joyous.
I want to thank you for coming on. This was a blast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for me too.